my screen. Okay, screen. I can turn my camera off because it's somehow influence badly on the connection. So yeah, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so today we will cover a couple of small topics from the JavaScript, such as the date object and regular expression. You will probably use them a lot during your work. So today we will just talk about them briefly. And let's start. Just a moment. Yeah. So yeah, the agenda for today is this. Before we start, I will show you a little message to reader. We will talk about some knowledge that you as developers will need and some useful sources that you can use. And we will talk, as I said, about dates and regular expressions. These topics are small, so it won't take much time. Before we start, here's just some kind of small talk on another topic. Um, I would like to tell you about 3 important technical skills that you will need both on interviews and during your future work as developers. So the knowledge of a developer usually consists of 3 main parts. So these are first theoretical knowledge, then that you gain when you face real problems during your work, and some hands skills, which means the solutions for different kinds of problems that you can easily remember and apply. These can also be some patterns that you use to solve different tasks or issues, and how easily you can remember them. So about the theoretical knowledge, these are some, how to say, this is some kind of basic information that you receive during lectures, or that you can obtain from various sources such as books, videos, I don't know, YouTube, courses. And this is some kind of a fundamental things that can be applied, that you can how to say, that you can know, that you can base your work on. So for example, this can be co-notation, different concepts of programming, some programming languages, documentation, and so on. You have to understand these basics, as well as some fundamentals of logic, like different patterns, different algorithms, etc. So this is like the basis of your work. The second point is your working experience. Uh, this is your main asset, as it said here. However, you cannot influence the speed with which you get this asset. So it can take years to get the proper working experience. So you cannot become a senior developer in half a year because it's just not done this way. So probably it will take your patience and also your the ability to choose proper technology to work with. So, for example, if you are invited, I'm not talking about EPAM now, but if you are invited on a project that, for example, proper testing or work, or for example, you are a junior developer and as a junior specialist, you need mentoring. You need some person to be there for you, to be ready to answer your questions. Like my senior colleague, if invited to a project and you are not of mentoring, then probably you
I think there is some issue
to
about show the show. I think there's some issue.
connection. Yeah, I'm sorry. Give me just one change my location.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, sorry. Do you hear me now?
Very well.
Is it okay with the connection now? Can you see the presentation or hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, and what about the slides?
I see the string of meeting. Okay, now I can see it.
Okay. So if anything wrong happens, then tell me again. But I hope this time it will be okay. Okay, so I was talking about your assets as a developer, which bring you more value and which make you a better specialist. So I was talking about working experience and how you can make your experience better, although you cannot influence its speed. Then the main tool with which you can influence it is that you choose those projects that can give you a better experience and help you grow. And another point here is your hands-on skills. So this is what we can train by doing practical tasks, and that's why you're given your homeworks here, and that's why many developers attend different courses, and that's probably what makes a developer more valuable as a specialist, and this is probably what measures the seniority of a developer. This is probably this is not the theoretical information. This is uh, the solutions that a developer has in mind, and that they can quickly remember and apply while working on a separate task. And how we can improve these skills apart from doing your homeworks and working on pet projects. There are different websites that provide small exercises or small tasks which you can uh, solve, and also look at other solutions and compare them to yours. And this is how you can grow a specialist more fast. Here you can see one example. I'm not sure, have you ever seen this website, Code Wars?
Yeah, I see it before.
Yeah, have you tried solving the tasks there?
Yes, I do one or two exercise on that.
Yeah, that's good. And uh, when I started my way as a developer, I was also recommended this one. So if the others haven't seen it, uh, here's how it works. You can sign sign up here, create an account, and this is like a library with different coding tasks or katas, as they call them. There are different levels of these katas. They start from the easiest level, which is 8, and the hardest is 1. You can pick different topics. For example, for JavaScript, arrays, objects, functions, etc. And you can um, choose a difficulty and solve different tasks with this difficulty. Like, let me show you. .com. So it supports different languages. So there's not only JavaScript, but also others. And you can choose, for example, you can pick a random task. And here is the description. Here is where you write your solution, and there are tests that help you check if your solution is right. So this, which means it's like some middle level. And there is also another resource, which is called Late Code. So it's just like an alternative. So here you can find different tasks from different companies that they ask on interviews. So this is basically the same as Code Wars. So the main advice here, here it's written that you can choose a topic and solve all the tasks that cover this topic, but I was also recommended that well, it can be hard to do that, and it can take a lot of time. So another way is uh, to pick one task each day. So, for example, in the morning, when you're drinking your coffee, you can solve just one task and forget about it till tomorrow. So this is one useful advice of how you can progress as a developer. Okay, so let's move on. This was like a small side talk. So probably let's return to our main topic for today, which
I
is
also have a question that
a question.
okay.
Yeah, that's
If
it.
you have a lot of time and you have to pick a field to learn a lot about it, which field you will choose? I have some option like programming language, algorithm, math, computer science, and so on. Which field you will choose?
Um, I don't know. Uh, for me now, I'm focused on the basics of programming, like algorithms and some other concepts. But for the beginning, I would focus on some hard skills like uh, language core basics, like, for example, functions or context in JavaScript, or some concepts of object-oriented programming, something like that. I think that would be useful.
Yeah. Okay. Um, but they're learning about programming language. It has a limit. Like when you learn enough time, then nothing much value for you to learn.
Sorry, can you repeat it
Yeah,
once again?
a question about if there when we learn about programming language, when we learn lots of time, the maybe it will has some limits and we don't has a lot of value when learning it.
Um, do you mean that if we learn only one language for a long time,
Yeah.
and is it better to learn more?
If we put too much time for one language and we will miss
Others?
limits.
Um, I think that I'm not sure if it's useful to like cover how to say, if you just read a little bit about one language and then you switch to another, read a little bit about that one, and then so you don't learn the core concepts of the language, and you don't know it, and you switch to another. Uh, I'm not sure if it can be helpful. I think it's better to learn one language to like at a good level,
Yeah.
and then uh, cover its frameworks. For example, if it's JavaScript, then you can try learning React and Angular. at least to read the documentation and compare different frameworks. I think that would be useful. And I guess, I'm not sure, then maybe after you have some practice with one language, then maybe you could switch to another. But I don't know. I guess there is no universal answer for this,
Yeah.
because some people start with the fundamentals and with the low level languages like C, or for me it would be much harder to how to say, the entry level
Yeah.
to start working. It would be much higher, so I would spend more time if I chose that path. So I would rather start with some practical knowledge and focus on one language, then learn the frameworks, then start applying this knowledge, and only then, when you already use some tools and some solutions, only then you can develop like wider. I don't know, it's just like that's probably just my vision.
Yeah. It's okay. It's good. It's good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, at 5Q, and this question is really hard. Yeah, I was really shocked how hard the fifth and fourth levels are. So yeah, this is very useful. Okay, so let's proceed with our slides. So today we're going to talk about dates and regular expressions. How I said, these are small topics, so probably we will cover them quickly. So dates. Mm, Sometimes when you program uh, different parts of your app, uh, you have to show different dates on your screen, and sometimes um, they are calculated dynamically. So if you want to show a text with a date on your screen, then it's not hard coded. So you don't just write the text with the date, because tomorrow this date will be another, and you need to calculate it at the moment the user will see it. So here are different tools that we can use here, which are mostly the methods of the data object. So before we talk about the dates here, we can see that we apply the so-called Unix epoch here, which starts with the January 1st of 1970 at midnight. So all the dates that we are calculating, they are measured in milliseconds after this moment. Mm. So it's pretty simple, but sometimes it has different issues, which are mostly related to different time zones. So sometimes these dates can be different. Um, in different time zones. And here we need to define this between the so-called UTC time and the local time. Because if we try to calculate the date and the time and show it on a screen, there are different approaches. So the first approach is to use the UTC time, which is the universal time, and the local time, which means, for example, if I try to display the local time, it will be one date and one time. And for example, for you, it would be another time. Like here at my place, it's 3 p.m. and at your place, it's 7 p.m. So this is what we should bear in mind when we try to display date. And as I said, it is calculated in milliseconds since this. So here is the time zone problem that I already told you about. And here we can see how the date object works and how the date can be calculated and shown. So the date in JavaScript, yeah, surprise here, is an object. Like everything in JavaScript are object. Or it can also be defined as a number, which is called timestamp, and it shows the number of milliseconds from the Unix epoch. So here, for example, it would be 24 hours for 60 minutes, 60 seconds, and 1000 milliseconds, which equals to this big number, and it represents a day. So the number of days should be calculated and multiplied by this. So here, if you create a date as an object with the keyword new, and if you pass 0 here, it will show you this kind of string, which means it is Thursday, January the 1st, 1970, sorry, European standard. +1. So this is calculated for Europe because the UTC is the European standard. And if it shows you a string, if you check the type of this thing, it will be object. So date is an object. You can also call this constructor without the keyword new, and it will show you a string. So the same thing will be shown as a string. However, it will show you not the 0 day of the epoch, but instead it would be the current day, because this parameter will be ignored. Here is here you can see different methods of how you can use the constructor and what you can put inside the parentheses. So here you can pass the number of milliseconds, which will equal to this date. So it will calculate the Unix epoch minus this number of milliseconds, which will equal to this date. Also, you can pass the string with the date, and the new date object will also be created. You can pass the parameters separated with a comma, so it will be year, month, day, and you can also continue this list with hours, minutes, and so on. And you can also pass a date object inside the parentheses, so it will just create the same date object. And another detail here, you pass the days with like an actual day. So this will be April 11th, 11 here and 11 here. And if we talk about month, the months start with 0. So January will be 0 and April will be 3, month number 3 instead of 4. So this is what you need to remember. There are also different methods that we can apply to the data object, and probably you have already used some of them. So we can save our newly created date into a variable. For example, here it's lullaby, and we can apply such methods as, for example, set full year, and we apply another year to this date. So as we remember, it was 1905, and we can change the year of this date to 2021. This method will return a new timestamp. So instead of this one, it would be another one for the new date. And if we get the full year of this date, it would be the new one. So it will be 2021. Here you can see different examples of methods. So for example, we can convert our date to different types of strings according to the time standards that we use, or to some locales, because at some locales we can calculate years or weeks differently. For example, what year is now in Vietnam? Is it 2022? Because I know that in Thailand, for example, it's to 25 something. So that's why I'm asking. So string will be different for them. And yeah, so yeah, for us it will be the same, 2022, both for you and me. Okay. We can also get the date string from the date. So as it said here, we can finish where we started. So we can create a new date out of a number which will make it this date's stamp 42, which means 42 milliseconds since the Unix epoch. And we can get the timestamp of an exact date. So in this case, it would be 42. And if we apply the method value of to this object, it will be the timestamp as well. So in this case, here in both cases, it will be 42. So this is pretty much it for the dates. Maybe you have any questions because this topic is so small. Yeah, I know that in Thailand it's more than 25. It's like, oh, I don't remember. For me, it was so unusual when I was there.
Does this cause any problem when some country has different years like Thailand for developer?
Let's check. So, for example, let's check it. Just a moment. JSBin. Let's date. Was it? Just a moment. To GMT string to date string, sorry. No, it's console. So it's Wednesday, March 23. Okay, so let me change this to locale date string, for example, Thailand. So as we see, first, the standard is different here, and we see that the date is different. So it depends on the case that you're using. So first, you need to show the correct date to your users. So you need to define if it will depend on the location or not, and or you will show the universal date. Or, for example, there are different date and time formats. So, for example, here's the date string, and there is one other option like ISO string. So this format is completely different from this one. It shows the same date, but the format is different. And for example, when you're passing some data to the backend or from the backend, and you parse it somehow, you need to check the format in which you get this data. So for example, if you parse it like this string, but instead you get this string, then you will probably have errors. So that's how what you should pay attention to. Probably these are two main moments.
Is the first time I know there's country has different date, different years.
Yeah. Sometimes. No, but it all depends on the time because, for example, you and I have different time at the moment. So it's not only about the year and the date. It's also about time because the time zones are something more usual. Okay, so I see more question. Why does date object have to be so complicated? What we can use with all the information it provides. So as I said, is it so complicated because there are different ways to show it and to parse the information that we receive or that we transfer somewhere, like to the backend, and there are different time standards that are created in the world. It's not the JavaScript world, but in the real world. So the data object, it contains all of these standards just built inside. And what we can use. So for example, we can show different informations about different dates. It's also very useful to know so all the knowledge of all these methods will help you build such tools as calendars, date pickers, and other elements that you can use that you can create for your users. For example, if you go to some websites like booking.com or and you want to book an apartment or you want to buy an air ticket and you see this date picker when you can choose the dates of your and sometimes these time standards are different for different countries. So yeah, as I said, it's different year or sometimes, for example, in some countries, there can be different week details like, for example, in Russia, we start our week with Monday. And for example, in the US, it started with Sunday. So, by the way, in Vietnam, what is the first day of the week?
I think it's Monday.
Monday, yeah, like here. So, yeah, Monday. So, yeah, this is what's also is included there, and uh, um, what can be used. And there are also different libraries that can help you with this work. Probably the most popular one is called Moment.js. Here you can see different. It's pretty much the same as the date object, but with more methods when you can add different dates or subtract or show your date in the format that you want to use. For example, you can create your custom format, or you can show different your dates in different languages. Like, where is Vietnamese? It's here. Oh no. It won't show me anything. Sorry. So yeah, you can manipulate your dates and get more extended functionality of the built-in data object. So yeah, it's pretty complicated, but it is very useful. So you have any more questions? Okay, so if not, then I would suggest that we take a little break and continue with regular expressions after the break. What do you think about it? Okay, so if you don't mind, then we will take a break until 7:30 and meet here after 7 minutes. Okay, great. So yeah, see you after the break. I saw is everybody's back? I hope so.
Yeah, I'm here.
That's great. So let's proceed and move on to regular expressions. So has anybody worked with them before? Or maybe you know what these tools mean and what are they used for? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that everybody has. So let's, yeah, regexp, regular expressions. So yeah, that's great that you have usually use it to filter string. Yeah, to filter strings, to compare different strings, or to check if a string has some text inside. Yeah, check ML syntax. It's probably the most popular use case for this. Yeah, so there is a certain uh, expression that contains the at symbol, the dot symbol, and two or three uh, letters uh, after the dot. So with the help of this, we can check if this is a correct email address or not. So and it doesn't work only with emails. So you can create your own regular expression with your own pattern, and it will work with different strings. Uh, yeah, I've seen it on Stack Overflow. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure those of you who have worked with regular expressions, uh, they already know that their syntax is very, very wide and complicated. Uh, so you need the documentation to help you, and with the help of documentation, you can do pretty much everything with text. So let's move on. Here is what it looks like. And here's the definition. So regular expressions are some patterns that we use to match some combinations of characters in our strings. And there are different use cases for this. So we can replace some parts of a string, or we can delete different parts, or we can also check if a string is matches a pattern, or do anything like that. So for example, here we can test if this pattern that we define inside this slash brackets, so-called brackets, if this pattern matches this text, and get a Boolean result, like yes or no. More details about this. So a regular expression can be declared with a literal or as an object, like same as data object. So here is the literal syntax. We define a variable and we put something inside the slashes. So it can be some text or it can be different patterns, different symbols that can be used. And here we can also add different flags, and we will talk more about them later. So the type of regular expression is object, pretty much the same as a data object, and also has different flags that we can use to specify our pattern, and different methods such as source, execute, or test. Um, so here we can see how these methods and flags are used. So for example, we have a regular expression that contains the text Scott, and here we declare that this text is case insensitive, so we ignore the case if it's an uppercase or lowercase, doesn't matter. And global flag, it means that we don't look only for the first match. We need all matches that we can find. And we can see the source of this expression, which means the text that we put inside. Here is the Scott. We can get our flags I and G. So here it's G and I, which is the same. We can see last index. More about that later. We can test a text, a random text, that if it matches this pattern or not. So here we check if this regular expression matches this string, and we get a result of true. So yeah, they do match, and it is case insensitive. So here doesn't matter if it's a big S or a small one. Um, and we can also execute, so apply the exec method and get pretty much the same result as in test, but the difference is that for the test method, the result is Boolean if it's true or false, and here it is an array of matches with some technical information. So these methods work similarly, but their result is different. It depends on what result we need to get.
I have a
Here,
question
yeah.
about last slide. What's the method's last index? How the last index work?
Last index, it shows you how to explain this. We'll see it on one of for the next slide. So probably this example is not that good for the last index. So before we do any checks with this regular expression, the last index is equal to 0. When we test, when we apply the test method and we check this text, it shows the, how to say, the last index that we stopped our check at. So here it is 5, but here we can clear it and set it to 0. Probably the next example will be more informative. So yeah, is it okay?
Yeah,
We'll
it's
answer
okay.
this later in details.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, any more questions? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. And here we can see different ways of how we can create a regular expression. So we are already familiar with the literal, like here. And another way is to use the constructor with the keyword new regexp. And here we pass the pattern, like here in slashes. And with the comma, we put our flags like this. So these ways work in similar ways. However, there is a case, so probably you can ask a question, which way is better to use? And the question is that they work the same, except one case. Uh, when you use the constructor, you can sometimes program this pattern dynamically. So depending on different conditions, this, for example, time machine variable can be either one string or another. And if your expression doesn't know which string it is at a certain moment of time, you can just put a variable here and all the flags as an argument. So when you test your text to match this expression, it will apply either this string or this one. So this is, as it said here, is created runtime. And it cannot be used for literals. So this is the case, yeah, when you have to use the constructor. But in all other cases, there is no difference. So here you can see different parts of a regular expression. So as I said, we have our enclosing slashes, we have our flags, and here we can put different assertions. So we can check the beginning of the input and the end of the input. We also have different capturing groups. I will show you an example of how they work later. We can also define a group of characters that we're searching for. For example, they can be a range of letters like alphabet, or numbers from from 0 to 9. We can use different characters here, like exclamation marks or question marks or periods, etc. This is a character class, so this \s means that we want to check if the string contains spaces. So backslash s means a space. Quantifier matches the if this pattern is used 0 or more times. More about it later. And we can also put a text here, so it can be considered as text. This one, this is also like, it doesn't mean that it is a period mark. It means that it's it is all, like any character, so it can be any symbol, like a letter, a number, or anything. So this is what the regular expression consists of. And let me talk a little bit more about all these parts so you can learn more about them. So flags. I already told you about the I and G flags. Probably they are the most commonly used. So the I flag, as I said, means ignore case. So if we check different symbols, different letters in a text, and we define an I flag, it means that we don't care about the case. And G means that we need all mm, all matches. So here we can see an example. We want, so here with the string, we want to replace O letter with this underscore. And if we don't put any flags here, then it will just find the first match, so this first letter, and replace it. So we see that all the rest of the string remains the same. With a global flag, it will find all matches of the uppercase O. So there are two of them, here and here, out of, and it is replaced. And if we put an I flag, this case, ignore case flag, so it will also replace this lowercase o, as well as these two big O's. So this is what we put these flags for. There are also different properties. So there also are Y, U, and S flags, but you don't need to focus on them right now. You can read more about them on MDN or any other resources with documentation. So you mostly need to focus on the G and I flags because they are very common when you work with regular expressions. Uh, when we talk about methods, as I said, the most important ones are test and exec. And that's what Tin asked about. The regular expression object is stateful. So each time you execute your test or exec method, your regular expression object changes. So for example, here, this one is a better example. So we have a string with this text roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And we have this regular expression with the text rows and the G and I flags. So for the first check, if we see the last index, it equals to 0, then we test this string and we get a result of true because it has the string has this text of road. And for the first call, we have the last index to 5. So it means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. And if we test it once again, we get the result of true again. And the last index here will be equal to 45. So somewhere here. And if we test it one more time, then we get a result of false. So this is a tricky thing to think about. And same with the exact method. So we get this index property in our array, which after the first call equals to 0, and after the second call, it equals to 40. And after, if we call it once again, instead of a result, we get the result of null. So this is what these properties are about. Is it more clear now?
I don't understand the can you back to the slide?
Yeah, sure.
Um, yeah, I don't understand why the final regress dog test falls.
Because it's a little bit tricky. Yeah, so as I said, it's stateful. So if it has two matches, then it can be executed only 2 times, and after that you will get a result of false.
So test methods just compare one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or yeah, or you can. I'm not sure if the last index can be. It means. Just a moment. Let me check it. So it's new code here. Let's string. Okay. Is it roads? We don't. So let me just check this. It's log. Okay. Uh, so yeah, for the third time you will get a false, but if you change index sorry, last index. So yeah, each time it changes. So by default, the last index equals to 0. So this is the first character in the string that we should start our check. So for the first time, it is 0. For the next time, it is 5. So we start when we test our string once again, we start not from the beginning, we start from the symbol number 5, and we check the remaining of the string. And if we change the last index back to 0 and call our test method one, it will start looking from 0, not from the so yeah, it passed through all of this string and stopped at the last index number 26. So there is nothing more to check here. However, if we change it back to 0, or for example, we can set it to like 10, it will be true. But for the next call, it will be false because we start somewhere in the middle, get one check, and at the next call, it will be false.
Yes, I can, as you can see how it's worked now. It's just
Okay.
really new to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but if you're just testing strings, you need to remember that on a certain iteration, it will be false, even though it matches the pattern. So you should always remember about this state of the expression. And yeah, I see that in the chat there is a correct answer. So yeah, last index is the position next to the last match. Okay, so let's move on. Make it bigger. Um, yeah, so we can also use more methods. Like instead of we can use match and replace methods, which are also very helpful. So for match method, we get the object with the matches. If we don't use flex, so it will be it will look like this. And if we want to replace some text, we use this pattern. So for example, here in this text where we are going, we won't need rows. We want to replace the text we with the text you. So without any flags, it will be just where you are going. And here it is still we. And with the G flag, all matches will be replaced. But you can also use replace all and match all properties, which will give you all the matches. And also you can split your strings with some values, pretty much like the split method of a string. And you can also use the method search, and you can also read more about them on the MDN. So also when we talk about methods, we can dive deeper into what we put inside our slashes or inside our parameters in the constructor. So we can use different quantifiers. It's better to explain with examples. So here we have our same string about the roads, and we can look at different results that we can get with different quantifiers. So for example, the asterisk here, if we put inside the text roads and put this asterisk, it means that we get all matches within this text. So this text will get into the result array if it's present here 0 or more times. This one is pretty similar. It means this yeah, sorry about this. It will check only this last character. So like this, it will check the letter W and the letter H if it is present one or more yeah, one or more times. So here here is the difference. So with the asterisk, it will check the H if it is present 0 or more times. So both WH and W match the pattern, but here it is 1 or more times, so only WH matches the pattern. Or for example, if it would be WH, HH, it would match the pattern as well. So one W must be here and one or more letters H. And here the letter H is optional. So this one, the question mark works like these two, but it works only for 0 to 1 times. And we can also put as many occurrences as we want. So for example, here we need to get only single is, so we can count them here, and they will all go into this array. And we can also put a comma, which will mean at least n occurrences, or from n to m. So for example, 2 is we can define here. It will be this match. We can also create groups and ranges. So with the same string, for example, here we can include word we. So it will be this rows, then we, then again we, and the last word rows. We can also define a character class. So we can enclose different characters here, which will be included into result array. So it will be anything that includes these symbols. So all the matches will go into the result array. This one will exclude the characters that we define here. So it will be like all the rest. And the capturing group, this one is also a little bit tricky to work with, but it is also useful. And I can show you one more example of how we work with groups. Just found one. Just a moment. So yeah, here I found a very good example. For example, here we have a string of 1, 2, and 3 separated with the space. And we can define a regular expression, which will mean start with the start of input. Here is the end of input. And we have 3 groups of letters separated by white spaces. So here we see that we're going to look for a word, then a white space, a word, a white space, and a word again. And as a result, we get 3 groups. Then we can create another pattern with these groups that we have, and we want to change their order. So the first group will go, the third group will go first, the second will remain second, and the first one will be last. And then we apply the replace method, and we put inside our regular expression and this replace text, and this result will be this one like backwards, so it will be 3, 2, 1. So this is how we can work with different groups, but this is more of a high level working with regular expressions. Okay, do you have any questions by now? Okay, so a couple of slides left. So when we define characters, for example, inside of these brackets or here inside of a regular expression, we can use our special characters like this. So the comma has different meanings. So if we use it inside these brackets, where we define our characters, it would mean a comma, so like a literal dot. However, if we use it outside, like for example here, so not inside the brackets, but inside the slashes, it will mean any character. So it can be either a dot or a letter or anything else. So pay attention to the place where you put a comma. \d matches any digit, so a number from 1 to 9. \uppercase digit means anything that is not a digit, so it excludes the digits from the search. Same with letters. \lowercase w means any character from the Latin alphabet, including the underscore and 0 to 9, the range from 0 to 9. So it can be either an Arabic number or a letter. Same with excluding letters, numbers, or anything like that. So it is equivalent to this, which is not these symbols. Backslash lowercase s means a white space. It can be either a space or tab or anything like this. Backslash uppercase s means anything. So you can already define this pattern. So this means anything but the white space, and the backslash, just the backslash. You can it depends on the character that you use this one with. So if this is a special character, like for example a dot, you can put a backslash before it, and it will mean a dot instead of a single character. And for the character that is literal, like a letter, so this means that it should not be interpreted literally. And if you put it inside the this range, it means that it will be treated as just a backslash symbol. And a couple of more special symbols. So this one matches the beginning of input. So for example, if we define it in the beginning of our regular expression, like here, it will check only the first match. So if the string starts with this text, it will be included into the result array. Same with the $sign at the end of input. If we put it here, then it will look for this this word, and if this string matches this pattern, then it will be included. And you can also yeah, so another example is if you use this sign inside of these brackets where you put the symbols to search for, it will work as an um, excluding symbol. So it will exclude all the white spaces and all the letters from the string, and will return only special symbols like question mark, apostrophe, and comma, and all this stuff. So it's not written here, but the example shows that you should always look where you use this sign inside of the brackets, or in the beginning of the regular expression. They work differently if they're put here or here. And this is all from me for today. Do you have any questions?
Do we often write do you write regular expression as a web developer?
You I guess if you will work with forms, then probably you will write some, but it's not very often, but sometimes you have to. No, I wouldn't say that it is. Well, mostly junior developers work a lot with forms. I don't know, just from my experience, my probably three first projects included tasks that were related with forms, form validation. And I had to work on this. So yeah, I had to work. Sometimes you need to validate a certain input to match specific pattern, like email or something like that. Or I don't know, for example, you have a field when a user has to write his or her passport, and for different countries there are different patterns for passport number. And for example, I worked at a project in a company that were selling air tickets, and depending on the citizenship that a user defined, we had to check the pattern for this nationality for the passport. So, for example, in some countries, the passport number can include letters. In some countries, they include only numbers. So here is the the pattern that you can use to check it if the information is correct, and uh, to show the error to the user, like please enter the correct number, and to be safe from errors, so that there is no wrong data that goes to the backend. So yeah, here's how you can
I
how to say,
believe that's
you can prevent it.
there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it can be annoying because it's not like a programming task. It's not something difficult. It just it takes a lot of time and it can be annoying. But if you do everything properly and correctly, you can be safe from errors and you can benefit from that in the future. Okay, so any more questions? Okay, so if you don't have any questions for today, then there are any tools or website? Yes, there is. Just a moment. You can just Google it. The the documentation of regular expressions. Regex.com. So you can type different expressions here and see how they work under the hood and see different examples. I can send it to you here. And you can also read more about them on MDN or on JavaScript info. So there are a lot of resources, and I can say that regular expressions are not only used in JavaScript, so they are also used in other languages. So even if you decide to change the language you work with, knowing about regular expressions will still be useful for you. But I guess the best way to study them is to try different examples by hand. Probably practice is the best learning tool. Okay, so any more questions? Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, then this is the last lecture that you had with me. So the next lectures will be given by Katerina and Yana. And I wanted to thank you for coming here today and before. And if you have any questions later, you can always text me. And I wish each and every one of you good luck with your home tasks and with your further studies and with your future work. And I also wish you to have a good day, a good evening today. And yeah, see you later. Teen, get well. Yeah, wish you good health. Yeah, and thank you. See you later in production. Bye bye.